The deliberation of whether or not Cassie's husband should be in the courtroom should not even be in question. As long as I'm concerned, these are emotional supports. Welcome to Celebrity Daily, where we inform you on all that is happening in the lives and jobs of the most important people in the society. So let's talk about Diddy and Cassie. So the defense is saying basically that they are of the opinion that they should abide under the Rule 615, which basically states that you shouldn't be in the courtroom listening if you are also going to testify, which makes a lot of sense. Reason being that so witnesses don't tailor their testimonies based on what they've already heard other witnesses say, which makes a lot of sense again, because they need to hear all witnesses' testimony independently. That means at least they should hear from you that you actually experienced it, not because of hearsay or trying to just collaborate what you already know. Like you didn't experience it, or aftermath of what you had already seen without being there. Because some will come repeating the same scenario already talked about, which they might end up being irrelevant. And yes, Cassie's husband did send, and I quote, several threatening messages to our client saying he would like to beat the F word out of his, just words I can just repeat. So they didn't put him on as a witness, but depending on how the case goes, he and several others in same position as him, that means several potential witnesses, would be called to testify. And all this is happening the morning Cassie was supposed to testify. They went back and forth, and the judge asked why all this weren't considered before her husband arrived at the courthouse. So eventually, the defense pushed back a little and said they understand that she needs her support, so he can stay until they get into the 2018 incident. The question on my mind is, why is the defense worried about Alex Fine being in the courtroom? Could it be they have plans for him to testify, or they want to leave her vulnerable, knowing Alex would be a source of strength for Cassie? Just a reminder that Diddy is innocent until proven guilty by the jury. So this is not a final condemnation or a reason for you to come to a conclusion. So the court begins. Judge Aaron is seated and asks if the government are ready to call their next witness. Mind you, this is the first time Cassie and Diddy have seen each other since 2018 face to face. Then the door opens and she walked in with her long brown dress. Everywhere was quiet and combs were statuesque. He feels more frozen than normal. Although he's trying to be calm, then he watched her walk through the entirety of the courtroom, but she doesn't look at him. Then she sits down, but she keeps leaning in to talk into the mic. Then the lead prosecutor had to bring it up that this woman is pregnant and they want to do everything possible to get her out of the stand by weekend. So Cassie, now 38 years old, she was in an 11-year off and on relationship with Diddy and was signed to his record label. She signed a 10-year deal with Bad Boy Record. She stated that she released one album in 2006 and never released any other again. She stated that they were in a platonic relationship when she got signed until she was 21. They are 17 years apart. They got to Vegas to celebrate her 21-year birthday, and that's when he kissed her for the first time. At first she was nervous, then she cried because this person is Diddy and she just signed to his label. He's her label boss. She was in public, and he was in a public relationship with Kim Potters, and she was also dating a producer. Looking at Cassie in the courtroom, she seemed very sincere. Every question asked, she didn't stutter, but felt like she was in the moment. While she spoke, the attorneys took notes, not just them, but Diddy too. He looked like someone who had great input in his case. So she got invited to Trump Hotel for the first time. She said she felt confused, but he was renovating at the time. He's her boss anyway. They would probably talk about music, business, and she felt hazy and nervous, excitement too, and I was curious and also wanted to be around him. So due to this frequent meetup at the hotel, we talked about projects and also remembered being introduced to the idea of oral sex. It wasn't something I knew about or did at that point, so he taught me how. This is where the relationship started. We became intimate. And at this point, I became his girlfriend per se, although not confirmed because we never spoke about it. But we never went public at this time. And it wasn't just about me being his artist and it looking bad for me, but also because of his family and other things personal to him. So they started establishing their photos during their relationship, which you can go online. So they showed her a photo of Kid Cudi. Then she stated that they dated in 2011 and worked together for a brief period. When they were dating, I didn't tell Diddy, but he found out. Now, how did he find out? During a free coffee in LA and through my phone, where he saw an email exchange between me and a staff talking about bringing my toiletries to my house. Then she was asked, what was his reaction? She said, I just remember him slunging a wine opener at me. My eyes were blacked out and I was super angry and I left. It was one of the time where I was able to escape a freak off. So I left to another hotel and got a burner phone and called Kid Cudi to pick me up. Then she said to herself that she can't keep running away. She needed to go resolve this and explain to him. She said they were on a break. She just wanted them to have a conversation about moving on. And after all, he sees other people just like the way she's seen someone else. So when she arrived in the house and went into the room, she said, then he told me about the videos that he had and how he was going to deal with Kid Cudi and I. Then I just ultimately left. When I was about leaving, I was ready to go. He, Sean Diddy, kicked me on the back on my way out. I just had a big bruise on my back and I fell to the floor. Then I left. When I got back to the hotel room, it was trashed, but I didn't know who did it. But it seemed like Diddy sent some of his men to do it on his behalf. The hotel room was just turned upside down. I didn't know. Somebody peed on the floor of the bathroom. My clothes were everywhere. The furniture were turned over. Someone pooped in the toilet and didn't flush. It was just gross. So she gets another hotel room with Kid Cudi. That is where she sent an email to her mom and Kid Cudi just in case. And it reads, the threats that was thrown at me through Sean Diddy Combs is that he is going to release two explicit sex tape of me. One on Christmas Day, maybe before or after, and another one soon after that. He has also said he will have someone hurt me and Kid Cudi physically. He made a point that it would happen not by his hands, that he will be out of the country when it happens. Soon after, I flew to my mom's house. Then my mom started taking pictures of me on my bruised body. And my mom was worried and she asked me, but I had to lie to her that this was the first time he was putting his hands on me. She said I didn't know how to justify to my mom that someone who claimed to love me does this to me. So she broke up with King Cudi just because it was too dangerous. Because Didi literally told me when we are out of town, he would blow up his car. So King Cudi's friends would see it. Sean wanted Kid Cudi's friends to see it. Then later, the defense got into the Sugar Knight issue. Like, they were rivals in the music industry. Sugar Knight had Death Row Records for LA, and Tupac, while Diddy had Bad Boys record in New York with Biggie Smalls, allegedly led to their assassination and all linked to Diddy Combs. Cassie described the incident that happened the night Sugar Knight was shot, and there had been speculation before now that Sean Diddy had something to do with it. Sean and I were having a freak off in one of his homes in LA. We were just chilling at this point. Then one of his security guards came in and informed him that Shug was down at Mel Diner, which was just right down the hill. They quickly packed up and moved down there. What was your reaction? They asked. I was crying and screaming, please don't do anything stupid. I was just really nervous for them. I didn't know what it meant. I dressed and I left the house. But they came back. So how long were they gone for? They asked. Not too long, say 30 to 45 minutes. So Cassie testified that she saw guns in the Miami, LA, New York, and Jersey resident. She said there were a lot of guns. They were often taken out, just laid out a lot in the house, which I never understood for what purpose, but I felt it was just a scare tactics. She went further to say they used aliases when booking for their escorts or rooms in hotels. One thing I would say is whenever big names were mentioned, the jury paid so much attention because they even took notes. One thing you will notice is also Cassie always adjusting when she's not being questioned. You could see the discomfort on the release of tension. This woman is literally 8.5 months pregnant and she could give birth through the weekend. So she was asked how she knew what freak offs was. She said the first years, Sean introduced it to her as voyeurism, where he would watch me have sexual intercourse with a third party, man precisely. How did you feel hearing this for the first time? Ooh, she said. I just remember my stomach falling to my butt. The nervousness, the confusion in the moment, and I was 22. I didn't know how to feel, but I also felt a sense of responsibility for him sharing such a thing with me. I loved him very much and I just wanted to make him happy. How does Sean describe voyeurism to you? He described it as a fantasy he had that he would want to see me with other men in a sexual reaction and would watch. So they asked her how the term freak off came about. She replied, I don't remember. So proceeded to asking what the term freak off entailed. It basically involves hiring of escorts and setting up the experience so I can perform for Sean. The performance involved Sean watching her with a third party. She also recounts him providing ecstasy and alcohol. What did you wear for your first freak off? I can't remember exactly, but always something nutty, a see-through with extremely high shoes, which was discomforting. Sometimes she would wear glasses or max or wigs. Then some of the supplies were baby oil, Astriglide, condoms, which was mostly bought by the staff. Although if she set it up, she would bring the supply. Sometimes Sean would. We used strong smelly candles for lighting, mostly 8 to 10, on places Sean could see I and the escort. She said they would use strong smelly candles because during the freak off there would be a very strong smell. Therefore, they needed the candles to scent better so they could stay longer. And also there were blood and urine, all the smelly thing you could think of. Sean Diddy, Sean liked to keep the hotel room warm, she said. So during the freak-offs, there would be body odor mixed with Johnson baby oil and strong, stringent smells of the candles. The baby oil were as important as any other thing. I know we had at least two sections of me and the escort from beginning to the end. She was asked why she didn't say no. I felt scared. I didn't want to make him unhappy. And I felt close to him. Like he had told me this very personal thing. I didn't want to disappoint him. Besides, I already said yes and started. I didn't know how to say no. Eventually, the setup became my job, but at first it was Didi. What was the temperature of the baby oil? They asked. It was always heated, like warm. Keep the cover on and put them in hot water. Let it warm up. So he wanted. Who told you you needed the baby oil to be glistening? It was Sean. It was his preference. We applied every 5 minutes. If he felt we were too dry, he would tell us why we oiled up. He instructed everything like a directed movie. He would say you need to be glistening. We used 10 big bottles per freak off. This equates to a full gallon of baby oil dumped in the middle of the hotel room for them to dip themselves. Think about that. How do you clean this off? I asked myself. I'm sure the hotel must have noticed because the cleaning would be thorough. If you remember, there would be tweets circulating of workers tweeting, yo, Didi just stayed in my hotel and he's nasty. People just never understood. And just a reminder that the police seized 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Then they asked about the tunnel. The infamous tunnel rumor circulating is actually true. It does exist. She was asked if she had ever been there. She said yes once. He asked me to follow him. He had something to show me, he said. The tunnel is outside of the house, opposed to inside. It is disguised behind the foliage near the pool area. It looks like a slope as part of the landscape, but there was a hush under the leaf, and what she saw next would stick with her for life. It is made up of concrete stairs, steel doors. It got cold the deeper we went, and when we got inside, I knew this wasn't just a safe room, it was something else entirely. She wouldn't say more until prompted, but the room already knew they were going to hear something no one was ready for. Cassie's voice didn't shake as she began to recount what was inside. The entrance led to the long corridor, bare walls, fluorescent lights. There was this buzzing noise, almost mechanical. It didn't feel like a part of the house. It felt like an institution. She described the work as disoriented, twisting hallway with no windows and cell services. She said Diddy walked ahead of her, talking to himself, mumbling about proving a point. She thought about turning back, but didn't. He had this look in his eyes that says, "Don't argue." As they passed through a secure door, unlocked with a keypad, Cassie said they entered a large chamber like room. Red lights, camera in the corner, leather furniture. There was a smell, cleaning chemical, sweat, something else. The room, she claimed, was not for relaxation or entertainment. It looked like it was made for something else. It was clinical, but also perverse. You could feel that bad things had happened there. She pointed out details: shelves filled with props, masks, ropes, oil, latex outfits, a rack of clothes that appeared on one, mirrors on the ceilings and the floor, soundproof padding on the walls. None of it felt like a fantasy, she said. It felt like control, like it was built for power over someone else. The defense pressed her. "Have you ever seen anyone else down there?" Cassie hesitated. "Yes," she described, seeing two women in wigs and masks. One was lying still on a couch and the other sitting near a tripod with a camera mounted. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They didn't move much. He called them performers. I wasn't introduced. When asked how long they stayed there, she said not long. I made an excuse and I said I felt sick. Went back upstairs, locked the bedroom door. Hours later, Didi confronted her. He told her, "You never saw anything. You don't repeat anything. That place is for me, not for you." That was the first and only time she went down there, but never forgot. When asked to elaborate on the layout, Cassie gave even more chilling description. It wasn't just one room. There were three more. So one had no light at all, just a bench in the middle and a chain on the wall. The second had a full-length mirror and a digital panel next to, and the bed. I didn't know what it was for. The third had nothing but a chair and a box of wires. That's when I told him I wanted to leave, she said. Diddy didn't argue. He laughed, told me she wasn't ready, said this was too real for me. But what scared me the most was were the words that he whispered before opening the final door. He said, "This is where I bring the ones I own." Cassie described hearing muffled sound behind one door, like a speaker playing music, but distorted. Then I realized it was voices. She couldn't confirm who was inside. She didn't even want to know. She left the tunnel that night, shaking. Her clothes smelled like the place for hours afterwards. In court, she admitted she never told anyone, not friends nor family, because I didn't want to disappear. That's how it felt like. If I said something, I would vanish like those girls in the room. The prosecutor asked why she chose now. Because it isn't just about me anymore. Because he's still doing it. What if someone ends up down there and never comes back? Now, the judge in the trial is expected to weigh in whether to throw out some of the last week's testimonies, especially after Cassie's. The testimony of Don Richard is made to corroborate some of the testimony of Cassie, especially the abuse. She alleged that she witnessed Diddy hitting Cassie with a skillet because his breakfast was not ready. She also spoke about thereafter Diddy speaking to her about people who speak about things like this disappearing, and this only meant one thing to her: death. The defense objected most of these testimonies, saying they were lies or hearsay. The judge is worried that a lot of the witnesses would only come up and collaborate based on hearsay and not witnesses themselves, which makes a lot of sense, and that the possibility of her just seeing the aftermath of what had happened rather than witnessing it is possible. This would cause a tighter scope for what they can testify on this week, because we want to hear witnesses who actually experienced this firsthand. We all know Cassie was a very relevant witness, so this week we would see witnesses like Cassie's mom, her best friend of over 17 years, collaborating the abuse. But the defense is saying there were instances of abuse, quite alright. Remember, there is no case filed for abuse for this trial. Defense would like to know how it is relevant to coercion, fraud, or relating to sex trafficking, which is what he is on trial for. We're also expecting to hear from personal assistants of Diddy for this case. So thank you for watching and keep watching the channel for more updates on the Cassie and Diddy trial.